want to move into what happens in a world in which this conflict has ended. What happens next? A lot of Black Americans and also prominent human rights organizations have compared the situation that Palestinians are living in both to apartheid and also to the conditions that Black Americans lived in the Jim Crow South. And so my question is, once the violence has ended, once the conflict has ended, what is the United States going to do to ensure that Palestinians' human rights are not infringed upon?
We believe strongly in the vision and the power of a two-state solution. President Biden is not going to give up on that. As a matter of fact, before October 7th, we were in negotiations with Israel and Saudi Arabia to help normalize the relationship between those two countries. And I can't get into the details of the negotiations at this time, but I can assure you that as a part of those negotiations, very much there was a consideration of the Palestinian people and what they need.
A two-state solution right now does not seem like something we're going to see in the next 5, 10 years. Is there something that the White House and the United States government is committed to doing in that interim to ensure that Palestinians have equal rights?
Oh, I can assure you. And in fact, Secretary Blinken's in the region right now, and this is one of the things on his agenda is what does governance in Gaza look like post-conflict? Because I can tell you what we don't want it to look like. We don't want Israel to reoccupy Gaza. We don't think that that's in anybody's best interest, certainly not the Israeli people and certainly not the people of Gaza. We want to see a reformed and revitalized Palestinian Authority that is more responsive to the needs of the Palestinian people and better able to meet those needs. So there's going to be some reforms that are going to have to be done to the Palestinian Authority so that they have that credibility and the authenticity to truly govern and lead the Palestinian people. And so the other thing we want to see is whatever governance looks like in Gaza, as I said earlier, we want to make sure that the Palestinian people have a vote, they have a voice, they have a say in how they are governed in an institution that actually cares about them and their needs, which Hamas does not.
And I also want to ask about the West Bank, because obviously that's still a part of this conversation. Are there also efforts being done to ensure that Palestinians living in the West Bank have access to equal rights?
We're seeing some extremist violence against the Palestinians, which is absolutely unacceptable. And look, Secretary Blinken in the region has talked again with Mahmoud Abbas, Palestinian Authority president, about the West Bank specifically and about what needs to be done to calm tensions down there. And of course, he's delivered that same message to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, because a lot of this violence is being done by extremist settlers there in the West Bank, and it's unacceptable. And again, this is not something we're gonna lose sight of.
And I want to turn to what former President Obama said. He said that Israel has a right to defend itself, but some of the actions they're taking in the West Bank could harden Palestinians and people against the nation, further destabilizing the region. I'm interested, from a national security standpoint, what is the United States doing to ensure that doesn't occur? And sorry, I just wanted to clarify, I meant Obama was speaking about the bombings in Gaza specifically.
We're doing everything we can to support Israel, which, as President Obama noted, has a right and a responsibility to defend itself against a truly genocidal threat. I mean, if you go back and look at the charter by Hamas in 1988 and then the revised charter in 2017, I mean, this is an institution, a terrorist group that wants to wipe Israel off the map, literally. And so we've got to do what we can to help them eliminate this threat to their people, to their livelihood, to their statehood. At the same time, to President Obama's second point, we're working very, very hard with them, giving them advice and perspective, our perspective in urban warfare, to make sure that as they conduct future operations, they do it in the most careful, deliberate way possible, and that they minimize civilian casualties. And quite frankly, and Secretary Blinken said this again yesterday, that as they begin to think about resuming military operations, that they do it in a way that also doesn't target civilian infrastructure, particularly hospitals, because these people have to have a place to go for proper medical care. We don't want to see hospitals as the zone of conflict.
So much of the Gaza is now destroyed and leveled. Will the United States be equally committed in building it back up as we have been in supporting Israel in their in what they've done in the region as well.
Right now, the focus is again on helping Israel defend itself and making sure we can get assistance into the people of Gaza who desperately need it. So our immediate focus is food, water, medicine, and as I said, fuel. It's also about getting people out of harm's way. So that means getting hostages out, allowing for Americans who want to leave. 850 have already left through the Rafah crossing, and also providing areas in Gaza where civilians who have been displaced can be safe out of harm's way. And then, of course, we're going to start, as we already are, thinking about what does governance look like in Gaza. And clearly, as a result of post-conflict recovery, there's going to have to be reconstruction of Gaza, clearly, because of the damage that's been done. Now, I would be remiss if I told you we had all that nailed down and exactly where every screw and bolt and dollar is going to go. But I can assure you that the United States will, as we have been now, leading the effort to humanitarian assistance, will continue to lead in terms of what the future of Gaza needs to look like, both from a physical perspective, but also from a governance perspective.